And if you look around you, many people have died who were a waste of time, who were a lost cause. There's many lost causes, but they die. Exactly the moment that they become unsavable, in a sense, they die. Exactly that very nanosecond, they die.
Well, that was the voice of Bentinho Massaro.
Bentinho Massaro.
Massaro, not Mansaro. He makes me feel sorrow as a man.
Welcome, campers. This is part 2.
Take 3.
Take 3. I guess it's part 1, really, because,
Yes.
all of part 2 went down the trash. In case you didn't know, you're listening to
Campfire Curmudgeon with Nicholas and Heidi.
And we are very sad right now.
Yeah.
We're so sad.
We had a whole babble thing that went, and we babbled.
We talked for almost 2 hours in the car.
And we recorded on the wrong input.
We did. So
if a file that's the normal size of a podcast, it is the normal length of a podcast.
It is
but
blank.
It's just it's noise.
What did we do today, Nicholas, besides fuck up?
Well, I would like to think we got to see some magnificent vistas.
We did. We saw some red rocks. We went to Sedona.
Yes.
And we went to Sedona to do a little bit of research, get in the mood, and then
Sleuthing.
And we did a little recording. Just a little, almost 2 hours, and it flew away.
It's poof. Hey, guess what?
It's just...
before podcasts, people just had conversations.
Yeah,
so
we just had a really...
So
well, it was even better because, the car was a little noisy. We were afraid you guys wouldn't be able to hear, so we were shouting.
And it was raining.
Shouting into the microphone for 2 hours.
So we're like, and then the cult leader did this.
We were.
And it was like, whoosh, 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 whoosh. Oh, God, that guy's an asshole. He cut me off.
It was great. You would have heard Nick go,
Yes.
oh no! Several times. Ooh, the look I'm getting. Ooh. Nick does not like it when people come up quickly because he always assumes they are going to rear-end him.
I've been rear-ended.
Me too. I'm like, do it. We were in my car too, so it's extra funny because he's like, no. I'm like, it's my car. It's fine. It's already got back-end damage.
That's a fear on a road trip. Like, even if it's like, oh, guess what? You're paying for everything. How the fuck are we getting home?
It'll still drive. You can rear-end a car pretty hard. They're fine.
Yeah.
We drove your totaled car.
We did. We did.
It was quite smushed. It was. We were like, it's not that bad. We got back, we looked at it, we were like, ooh,
that's never gonna start again.
Totaled.
Yeah.
So anyways, today we are talking about Bentinho Massaro. He is accused of being a cult leader.
I'm so glad you said accused. I thought you were going to be like, he is a cutie, and he...
No. I mean, I guess he's supposed to be. People find him attractive. I think he looks like a little boy. Real quick.
He's a real boy.
He's a real boy. This episode is going to some animal abuse, which sucks, terrible, boo. It's also going to have some things that could be potentially triggering or uncomfortable. We are
self-harm.
Well, we're going to talk about we're going to talk a little bit about death by suicide. If that's something that is going to be upsetting, unfortunately, you might want to skip this episode. We're going to try not to dwell on it or get into details because we don't need that. But it is an integral part of this story. So, without further ado, we're going to have a little fun before we get really sad because we're going to talk about Bentinho Massaro. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know who he is, that's not surprising because a lot of people don't know who he is, and the only reason we do know who he is because some things didn't quite go exactly as he had planned.
Well, also, he puts a lot of himself out there.
Oh, he does, but he's still surprisingly not as well known as you would think.
You're right.
For somebody that puts himself out there. So, Bentinho is a self-help guru claiming to try to enlighten people. He led a lot of retreats in Sedona, Arizona, where we were today. That's why we were there. That was kind of where, it wasn't his official headquarters, but it was kind of like a mini headquarters. He had a couple retreats. He had a lot of office buildings and stuff set up there. And we actually went and got some pictures today. We got some sneaky pictures. I mean, we probably didn't have to sneak, but we were being weird because there was another event going on because It's no longer being used by Bentinho.
It'd be like showing up at a wedding reception and be like, don't mind us, we're here to take pictures. It
definitely could have been what was going on. We have no idea.
It was a Sunday brunch hour.
Maybe. I don't know.
We got there at 11 to noon?
Oh, yeah, noon. It must have been. But we went there, we took some pictures. If you don't know much about Bentinho, we're going to give you a little rundown. He started with videos on YouTube, sort of typical vlogging type videos. Bentinho's originally from Holland, from what I could ascertain. His mom and dad were really big into New Age and self-help type stuff. His dad did something in the field of self-help I'm not sure if he was a therapist or what, but they had a lot of these books around the house on different self-help, different types of spiritual beliefs, things like that. And Bentinho really just grabbed onto this subject from a very young age.
If it was the only thing you knew,
I mean,
is that good parenting?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't really quote on the parenting, but we do know though that his mom and dad seemed to kind of treat him like everything he did was right. So we do know that. So we know that perhaps that wasn't the best. I'm gonna sneeze. Gosh, that was gross. I almost popped my lungs. Anyways.
You're gonna sneeze?
No, I didn't sneeze anywhere. I'm not like you. Nothing actually happens when I sneeze. Just I almost explode my lungs.
Nothing happens.
Nothing happened, okay?
Just a normal human sneeze with no moisture.
I don't understand how you have to sneeze with your hand. Do we want to talk about this right now? How you always drive me insane by not using the handkerchiefs I bought you, and instead choose to sneeze into your own hand?
Because handkerchiefs are gross. It's like
sneezing into your hand is gross.
Yeah, but then you can go to the bathroom and wash your hands.
You can wash your fucking handkerchief.
No, that's not what you do in a bathroom.
No, you take it home. Oh my goodness. You sneeze into it, you fold all the gross up, and you put it in your pocket, and you don't have to deal with it.
No, gross.
No,
Then you're carrying around your gross.
So you know what? We're going to do a sound off. So sound off in the comments.
We should have a Facebook poll.
We're going to do a Facebook poll. Is it grosser to sneeze directly into the palm of your own hand or to sneeze in a handkerchief? Let us know.
I object to the phrasing of the poll.
Oh, okay. How would you like to phrase it? Well, okay, go on. Let's hear.
Is it more normal in 2018 to sneeze and then realize you got some snot on your hand and then go wash your hands? Or to carry around a rag in which you deposit all your mucus and then wash it with your regular clothes?
I don't wash it with my regular clothes.
Or your towels.
I wash it with my delicates.
Oh, your delicates.
They're delicate. Most of them are quite old.
Yeah. Maybe because they're out of style?
No.
Maybe there's just
because my grandma doesn't use them.
Maybe it's just because they're like a pocket square used for decoration only.
No, because my grandma was like, oh yeah, you use handkerchiefs. Here's all the ones I was given as a child and didn't use because I don't like handkerchiefs.
Gross. Or wouldn't it be fashionable? Actually,
she does think they're really gross. My grandpa uses them,
wouldn't it be more fashionable? That's what your necktie is for. You can just take your necktie off and wipe your nose with it, and then
no, you don't.
Then you put your necktie in your pocket. Your necktie is an emergency handkerchief.
First off, I mostly use handkerchiefs to dab at the sweat adorably. And I only sneeze into them if I have to sneeze, and I'm going to expel things from my nostrils in public. Ew, sneeze into a handkerchief, Nicholas. I bought them for that reason. I'm going to give everybody a monogrammed handkerchief. Anyways. Ugh.
Bentinho Massaro.
Bentinho Massaro. See, the reason Nick keeps messing up is my fault. I have a little mild dyslexia, and I read it as Benito Massaro, and it's Bentinho Massaro. Yeah. So I told it to him wrong the first time, and now we're all messed up.
I kept thinking of the Tempe band, The Refreshments, and their song Banditos.
Yes, and it's just like a big clusterfuck of whoops. So
give your ID
So if I go back and forth between the two, I'm sorry.
Of the border guard. Are you ready?
I'm also sorry for this, but that's not entirely my fault.
Card of the United Federation of Planets, because he don't speak English anyway. That song's actually problematic now.
You're problematic now.
Okay.
Anyways. So
what is a cult?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. What's a cult?
What's a cult?
I'm asking you.
Let me pull up the tab that I had.
Tell us, Nicholas, Mr. Facts. Tell us, curmudgeon, what's a cult?
A cult is Oh, here it is. A system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object, such as the cult of Saint Olaf.
What's that?
Well, I'm guessing that it's basically like within the pantheon of saints.
Did I ask you something you weren't ready for?
No.
I'm just teasing.
Basically, like, I pray to Saint Anthony all the time because I lost shit. So basically, they're devotees of, but also a small group of relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister.
Okay.
Or a misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing, such as like a cult of personality.
So here's what's hard about that. How do we separate...
Like Joseph Stalin?
Okay, how do we separate cults from religions or from fandoms?
Numbers.
Fandoms?
Population.
Population, what do you mean by that?
Numbers of people.
Yeah, there can be small fandoms.
Are fans of Elvis a cult? I wouldn't say so.
Why?
Because they're so broad.
Okay, what about fans of like obscure animes or obscure books or TV shows or podcasts?
You could say something as a cult following.
I mean, are we like a cult? Are we cult leaders? Because we have like 20 listeners.
Here's what I can tell you. We can test this and turn our listenership down to 0.
Listenership?
Our listenership. Sorry, my dentures are coming loose.
Still, you're not that old. I mean.
Let's start asking for money. And see how much of a cult we have.
All right. Well, Nicholas and I are creating a Patreon. We're going to go ahead and link it to this episode. If we're a cult, go ahead and throw some money at us. If not, and you just want to pay because you feel bad for us.
Hey, fuck you. Talk for free. This is fun.
You can give us 50 cents or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have like bonus episodes.
Now I have.
Yeah, right. We can't even have regular episodes because we can't seem to record them. I'm very nervous. Is this recording?
Yes.
I asked you that in the car. We're like, yeah, it's recording.
Yeah, it's actually on the right. It's on the correct inputs, and it's recording.
This is like the third episode we've recorded but not recorded.
And you know how it's true because we can hear ourselves. We're listening to the headphone jack of the recorder.
Oh, okay. I feel a little better. I'm still nervous.
So we're not listening to the board. We're listening to the recorder.
All right. Well, anyways, Bentinho Massaro, he does a lot of talks about what he calls super accelerated living. That's his whole jazz is like, you want to have super accelerated living, and he's going to teach you how to do it. It's all right. Doesn't sound too sinister. A lot of his ideas can
Do you want to optimize your way to self-actualization? Do you want to become Martin Luther King tomorrow?
I don't think he's ever advertised that.
I understand, but that's what it fucking sounds like, doesn't it?
Sort of, but he doesn't want you to be a leader because he's the leader. He's the bestest. You can't be the bestest if he's the bestest.
Right, but what do people that join cults do or want?
Well, he wants you to be enlightened.
They're seeking, right?
They're seekers.
Seeker peoples.
He wants you to find. And what he wants you to find is a way to a better style of living. A lot of this is kind of like you mentioned immediately, Nicholas, the law of attraction. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like
wishing.
Generic, like, well, from the book The Secret.
It's wishing.
It's wishing.
I wish I had a jet ski. I'm imagining I have a jet ski. And then the planet...
And then what you get,
and
jet ski?
Then the planet Jupiter's like, yeah, I'm part of the universe, and I think Nick needs a jet ski.
We also have to think intensely about it.
So it throws a jet ski at me because I've been thinking about Jupiter.
Basically. The law of attraction...
I'm in Aries, and Mars is in retrograde. And,
it's not in retrograde anymore.
And then Mars's moons...
Mars hasn't been in retrograde for like a week and a half.
And then Phobos and Deimos are like, yeah, he should totally get a jet ski.
Is that how that works?
Yes. And then it was like, ta-da, Nick gets a jet ski.
You should see the sassy-ass look he is looking at me with. Like, his eyeballs are sassing directly at my face, just so you're all aware.
The secret is wishing makes it so. It's the law of attraction. It's the power of positive thinking.
And the law of attraction, if we do a little quote here, the law of attraction governs our thinking and actions and how you can use it to achieve whatever you desire in life. Bentinho kind of has the same general idea. He'll say that it doesn't mean that you can't work towards what you want. It doesn't mean you can't do things to kind of get you there, but if you plant the seeds, that's how he calls it. If you plant the seeds and, you leave like little thoughts and think about it real hard, like, I'm going to achieve this, you will. And it's not exactly wrong. And this is the thing about Bentinho.
Plant the seeds.
That's kind of like what I do, right?
Water the... What is it, germinating plant?
I don't know. You made this shit up earlier. I don't remember what you made up.
Shine sunlight. Pick the fruit. Pick the boogers.
No, let's not do that. Use a handkerchief.
Harvest the winnings.
Essentially, but you and I have had this conversation.
I'm the worst farmer on the planet.
You're definitely the worst farmer on the planet. This is the conversation I've had with you, how, like, I set goals because you're like, well, how do you get the things you want? And I'm like, I'm going to get that thing.
Yeah.
That thing. And I tell people I'm going to do that.
Basically, what you do is you use the power of positive thinking. And what's your secret ingredient? Hard work.
Hard work and a little magic sprinkled in.
Effort.
Little magic sprinkled in.
Effort and just a general acknowledgement to yourself, like, this is a goal of mine.
But yeah, exactly. I'm cognizant of the fact that it's a goal and that it's not like I'm planting a seed and it's going to happen.
I want a pool party. Oh, there's bees. Let me get rid of the bees.
Let me throw money at the problem.
And guess what? The bees got gone.
I'm so sick of...
It cost like $500, but...
No, this time it was
$600.
And they had to take apart part of my shed.
But
it's fine.
But the reason you were able to afford that is because you were like, I'm going to get a better job than what I had before.
Well, but I did get laid off first. But that can be considered part of planting the seeds.
Right.
I told you I was working towards the goal, but I had kind of stalled in my search, and I needed a little kick in the ass, and
like
I got a big kick in the ass.
Driving my Toyota, and I was like, I wish I had a different car.
And what did I say to you? I was like, you got to stop saying that.
Yeah.
And next time you're like, I just wish I had a new car. Crunch.
Yeah.
I was like,
hey,
Nicholas.
We're going to the dealerships. What day do you want to go?
Guess you're getting another car.
Yes.
That was fun. But, you do have to wonder, and even you were like, wow, I said it out loud. And look what happened.
It's not that I wanted it to happen or made it happen, but what...
You wanted a new car, though. And that was a goal that you kept talking about and thinking about.
Right.
So in some way, could you have potentially influenced the actions that happened?
I don't want to
say no.
Yeah, I can't say no. It's
no.
what's called unfalsifiable, which means it's not subject to scientific scrutiny.
Which is part of why Bentinho has such a following, is a lot of what he says is only partially bullshit. It's got some truth sprinkled in, but like he says something. Here's some quotes. If
it's only partially bull, then what kind of shit else is it? Is it horse shit?
It's bullshit and
partial bullshit, partial horse shit.
Well, part of it's good, so it's like I don't know, like
fertilizer for planting
cream.
the seed.
Bullshit and whipped cream. I don't know.
Fertilizer.
So here's a quote.
Plant the seed.
Worrying about how you feel is what you've been taught, but it's not necessary. It's optional. Whoa, mind blown. So at first that sounds kind of fucking cool, right? You're like, oh, I don't have to worry about how I feel.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I've just been taught that. Oh, it's optional. But where this gets a little iffy is like, okay, maybe you offend your best friend.
Right.
And then you're like, I don't have to worry about it. Oh, I told Nicholas his hair looked like a horse's butt. I don't have to worry about it. Well, that wouldn't be very nice, obviously, if I said something offensive and then didn't worry about it. I don't think Nick would want to be friends with me for very long. If every time I offended you, I was like, I don't care. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah,
I'm at a higher enlightenment level than you.
Unless I was some type of, like, psychomasochist, I'd definitely have to rethink.
You'd be like, all right, well, I'm glad you feel that way about my feelings. Yes. I'm going to go somewhere else. That's where it gets a little bit dangerous.
A little bit dangerous.
A little bit dangerous. Is
like Darkwing Duck? Are we about to... Let's get dangerous.
Yes. I love Darkwing Duck. You got me all excited. I was like, yay, happy things.
You did a thing.
I did duck flaps. It's a podcast. No one can see.
Yeah,
it's fine.
You're like quack, quack.
I'm like doing, yeah. But we were talking about how he has a little clip where it's very funny because there's like two sides to him. Bentinho can be like really calming, and he can tell you these things in this manner that's very
much
like
in this. He's aware.
Zen.
He's aware of linguistics. It seems like, and the patterns and how to basically talk and use the power of public speaking and pregnant silences, and then
it's like how
and cadence and rhythm and the poetry of speech, and he can use that where it kind of lulls you and it's hypnotizing. I think we talked about it earlier. Well, we obviously did, but where it was like it was kind of a circadian, or not circadian, but like what band nerds learn is circular breathing, so they can play and breathe at the same time, sustain notes on like wind instruments or brass. And
it's like you can almost hear him breathing underneath while he's talking.
Right, and it's like he doesn't come up for air. He's using air the whole time, and it has like there's a bass to it, and there's a treble to it, and it kind of comes across like with the hypnotic sounds of like a didgeridoo of like.
You can hear underneath him speaking. It's almost like a hum. Kind of like that. It's like a very deep masculine hum, even though his voice is on the, I would say, like higher tones as far as male voices go. All right, Nicholas. He's going to do this for the rest of the podcast.
I was just going to do Stand By Me baseline the rest of the show.
For the rest of the show?
Yeah. How bad would it be if we looped that? I just put it.
You see my face right now? You see this face?
You're not.
This is I'm recording this podcast for the second time. Thanks, Nicholas Jones.
and it's a. Well, I'm the one who edited it. So the day you edit it, you can.
Excuse me.
You could what?
What did you? What?
Who
edits it?
You're saying you edit
me.
it. Yeah.
Who's the work Nicholas Jones? Me.
So you're not putting a loop of me going like boom, 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 boom.
I might put a loop of you screaming as I beat you with your own microphone, but just kidding. He's lying. I'm not touching him. Like, ow, she hit me. No one can see. It's not true.
Anyways, he does it like many accomplished speakers.
Yeah.
He has the ability to kind of lull you in and put you in a headspace.
Like, you and I were watching a video, and it was like, oh, shut up. Like, we were kind of like, no. But we didn't turn it off. And it was like, we just kind of kept listening. And kept listening, and it went to the next video. And then we were like, why the fuck? Hold up. This isn't what we were looking for. We need to find some other stuff. But you almost got like lulled into just this sense of like calm and listening, and it almost like opens you up.
He has a gift for oratory.
He does, and it puts you in a state of where you're like, all right, I'll listen.
I'm not saying the substance of what's coming out of his mouth is any good.
Well, some of it is, but then he talks around in circles, and he goes back and forth, and he'll tell you one thing and then tell you another, and it's like, don't be selfish. Don't only think of yourself, but then, yes, think of yourself. Give yourself what makes you happy. But then it's like, be an enlightened being. Don't need things. But then it's like, yes, need everything.
That's Monday. On Tuesday, he could be saying something.
Right.
Like...
But I mean, within the same video, he'll be like, you don't need that. You don't need it. You don't need it. Oh, but what do you want? Take everything you want. But, don't listen to, higher self only. Don't listen to your ego. Listen to your higher self.
What he's doing is, he's extracting the positive from every kind of, I don't want to say ideology, but it's just like just permissions and being part of a group structure is like, yeah, man, the benefits you get out of community are great. This community, but then you got to worry about your individual self and your higher attainment and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait, at the end of the day, like, which one are you saying is more valuable? And he's saying like, oh, relationships are good, but then isolation is also good. And,
well, it's almost like something for everyone. Yes. Like, if you go, you will hear something that pertains to you because he is going so back and forth that you'll take out of it what you are looking for.
It is literally like cafeteria Scientology,
like a little bit of everything. Yes. You've got Scientology, a little bit.
No, I'm saying like there's the cafeteria aspect.
Yeah, you've got a little bit of like
I would like a dollop of mashed potatoes and ice cream sprinkles, please. But
one of the videos that you and I were talking about is where he is talking to an individual who he says that he is like too intense with his girlfriend, and that she feels that and she'll pull away. So it's like they'll have a great time, and then she'll get overwhelmed and pull away.
Uh-huh.
And instead of Bentinho teaching him, like, well, maybe you need to respect her boundaries, and that's why, maybe you need to calm it down a little bit, that kind of a thing. Instead, he says, oh, that's your fault that you feel that way. Like, you don't need to feel that way. And what he's saying is that he essentially tells him, you need to get to a state where you are like, oh, if she stays with me, great. If she leaves, great. I'm happy. It doesn't matter. And we were talking about that. I'm like, how would you feel, Nick, if I was just like, yeah, if you want to do podcasts and be my friend, great. If not, I don't care. I'm happy either way. It's all up to you. You would kind of feel like I didn't care about you.
Yeah, and indifference is worse than, like, being disappointed or angry. It's like, oh, at least you care.
Yeah, but it was like...
It's like, I have an indifferent person in my life, and let's keep that going.
Right? Just this person that doesn't really give a shit either way.
For what reasons? right?
And imagine that in a relationship.
When you meet people that are you meet them for the first time, and you're like, oh, okay, there's there could be a friendship here or something, yeah. And then it's like, oh, if you meet somebody who's like, yeah, I don't care if they're indifferent to me, we're not going to be friends. I don't wish them harm. But I'm not going to be their best friend.
Yeah.
I just want them to be okay in the world, but we're not going to be close.
So if you had a girlfriend that was just like, oh, if you're here, great. If you're not, great. Wouldn't you just be like, okay, so not then. So bye.
This is going to last.
Yeah. What's the point? And that's the kind of advice he gives is...
What's the point? If I was a boomer, I'd be like, well, why buy the cow, blah, blah, blah. Like,
God.
Yeah. Because we all know what they were thinking.
Don't be a stereotype, because then they can do millennials. No, I'm a human being. I'm not a millennial. Go fuck yourself. Do you want me to set this TV up for you or not, Karen? That's what I thought.
Karen. Anyways, sorry. Boomer humor.
Boomer humor? Humor boomer. Beer. I'm gonna blame it on that. Trains of thought.
You wouldn't stick around.
So basically,
that kind of advice, it's like...
and that's just the advice he gives for everything.
Right.
Is you need to basically get to a state of almost numbness.
Yeah.
Is what he's advocating, is feel numb. Don't have any feeling.
Become so fucking zen that you're unapproachable.
And
indifferent.
And we can talk about, so we talked a little bit about how he can be soothing, nice. Here's the other side of that.
Well, it's not just that, but this also goes into, like, here's a short clip of him.
Fuck your relationship. All of them. To your parents, to your family, to your friends, to the people around you, to me. Fuck your relationships. They mean nothing. They mean nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I understand there's a larger context, but at the same time, it's like...
There's not much larger context to that.
I can imagine speaking in a way where I'm maybe making the counterpoint. And I would say the same words, and I'm making the larger point of, like, we live in an indifferent cosmic universe that's 13.7 billion years old, and the world and the universe is going to last trillions of years until the heat death of the last atom.
But then why be a shitty person?
But and so it's like, okay, well, if nothing matters, doesn't that mean like the most important things to you are the things that matter most in the context of your life that you're living and experiencing that no one else can take away from?
And I can understand what he's saying in some ways too. Is it's like sometimes we stress so much over relationships that we should instead let them go. Like we've all had that friend who's had a relationship with a significant other or even a friend, and they just always seem stressed out and upset by this relationship. They're always like, my girlfriend this, my girlfriend that, and it's like, it doesn't seem like you're happy.
Or
maybe
my boyfriend doesn't go along with me to anything I like doing. My boyfriend does this, does that.
Just general unhappiness. And it's like, maybe you need to step aside, look at the relationship from outside eyes, reassess, figure out, is it worth the stress? And sometimes to people it is, because the good outweighs the bad, and maybe they just like venting. But to some people, it's like, ooh, you're right, it doesn't. So, okay, I can understand if that's what he means. But at the same time, you don't have to cut everybody out. Like, there's like, you see those memes, it's like, here's me cutting people out of my life. And it's like,
yeah.
It's like, no, grow the fuck up.
Like social media announcing that you're doing I'm doing a friends list purge. Like,
no, not even that. It's the like cutting negative people out of my life like this, snip, snip, snip. And it's
time
like,
to get rid of toxicity.
But it's like maybe you are the toxic person. Maybe it's you.
There's the roommate problem.
Maybe it's you. First off, also if it's somebody like. There are parents that are just super, super toxic.
I think it's Benito.
You think it's Bentinho?
Bentinho.
Sometimes, like maybe your mom and dad are the most toxic people ever, and it is best to completely cut them out of your life.
Right.
Sometimes you just don't get along. You just don't agree. And that doesn't mean you have to cut somebody out of your life. It just means you have to set boundaries. You have to set, like, oh, hey, Mom, let's not talk about that conversation that makes us, scream at each other. Let's change the subject when we get there.
Let's do something we like doing.
Let's stop there. Or even if it means like, hey, let's call each other every once in a while and only have surface conversations, which kind of sucks, but it means I still get to have a relationship with you.
Yeah.
And it means I don't go snip, snip, bitch. And that's kind of not exactly what Bentino's advocating. He's like, just cut them out. Right. Nothing matters. You matter.
When those family relationships get pushed to extremes, like he's not helping. He's adding gas to the fire.
He's adding gas to the fire, and it's like...
And this campfire is burning just fine.
But
it's a drought season.
Well, it's been pretty rainy.
I know.
It's rainy.
We were in Sedona, and they had the fire warning set to blue, whatever blue was. Blue was good.
Blue was
no low fire.
Was like
meters.
You can.
It wasn't.
Smoke in the forest, just don't throw it on the ground.
Take one of those,
I don't know.
like Elon Musk flamethrowers. You can take one of those Elon Musk flamethrowers over to the airport.
You can have a little fire, not a big one. So what we were talking about too is this kind of seems exploitative, especially of vulnerable individuals who are seeking something. You've got him giving all this crazy advice. Some of it's not
you're like,
great.
okay, you watch on YouTube, it's like 2 hours of a lecture, and you're like, you're not mad at it in the abstract, because you're just like, it's a bunch of buzzwords, and maybe somebody's going to get something out of it. And you're looking at it, and you're like, how, like, it's pretty anodyne. Some of it's just the, fuck your relationships, but that could just be like, he was mad at one of his 2 girlfriends that day, right? Like,
that's the other thing is, we'll get to that.
But then again, like, and it's like it doesn't have a human cost until it does.
We've got quotes from him saying things like, "Nothing that happens out there being the real world, nothing that happens out there can affect your state of being unless you want it to or believe it should." Okay, obviously this is just a re-quoting of the "no one can make you feel bad without your permission" kind of a thing, and it's like, well, yes, but at the same time, if somebody you care about says something truly hurtful, you can't just be like, I don't care. Of course it's going to hurt. If a stranger in the street says something hurtful, sure, maybe we should blow that off. Like, I don't know you, I don't care about you.
Yeah.
You don't pay my bills, you're not my friend. Bye, Felicia. But, if like a parent or a close family member, a close friend says something hurtful, yeah, it's going to hurt, and that's not your problem. It's not wrong. So some of his advice, it's like, okay, Benny, go shove it up your ass.
What was the conversation? It might even be in the first segment that we recorded where I talked about yesterday. I was driving in the car, and I was listening to a song I hadn't heard in a few years, and I was really into the song and liking it, and I got cut off in a turn lane. This truck drove over a solid white line to cut me off because he wanted to be able to turn. Which is
how you got in a car accident in the first place.
Right. In this case, I was like pretty much slowed down, but he basically cut me off in front of me to get in the turn lane in front of me to be able to turn left before I could. And I was just like, that's really aggressive, weird truck behavior, asshole driver type thing. And then I could see through the truck window that he was yelling at whoever, like there was a male driver, he was yelling at his passenger, either that or his hands were in the air, and he's basically pointing fingers, and I'm like, oh, he's having a much worse day than I am. Like, he's like, he did an asshole thing, and it's like, is that a problem with his brain or mine? Because I'm cool. Like, I was having fun on my Saturday, driving, singing in my car.
Right. So we'll give you a little bit of background because we've talked about Bentinho a bit. So he claims that from the time he was 10 was when he really got into like the self-help stuff. He moved to the U.S. when he was 25 from Holland, from what I can see. And there's some weird early warning signs, and this is something he talks about, abusing a kitten. And I wasn't sure if the kitten lived or not, the way he described this. Later, he claims it did, and we'll go into that. But it was real disturbing. He claims he befriended this kitten that his parents gave him. It was real scared. He, got it to trust him, and then he put it on a leash, and he took it outside, and these dark spirits made him whip it back and forth through a bush, is what his claim is. And that it wasn't his fault, he didn't mean to do it, he was upset the whole time, but that dark forces are something that's kind of like at work, and we have to fight against them, and we have to be enlightened beings, and blah, blah, blah. But I did find a clip where he's kind of, he's addressing that accusation, and hopefully this situation is true, but the way we've seen, like, the back and forth that he seems to have, it's kind of a weird red flag, so I'll play this clip real quick for you.
Before you do,
yes.
Can I just, he talks about how work and how, a work mentality can be stifling and soul robbing. Did he say something like that? Is that what you said?
No.
Okay.
What?
Just what you said earlier just now about, how, there's the outside forces, and they are anti-enlightenment.
Are you okay at work, Nicholas Jones?
Yeah, no. The point.
I didn't say anything about work.
I'm saying what he says about the outside world.
The outside world.
And working.
No.
Okay.
Nope. Nothing. Would you like me to read it again?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing that happens out there can affect your state of being unless you want it to or believe it should.
Yeah.
Nothing about work, hon.
Okay. No, what I was going to say is, like, you and I both work in office environments, and I don't know about you, but in the year 2018, the people that I work with, like, I want them to have, like, a fulfilling experience of life and, like, reach whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really interact with very many people.
I understand, but
doing my job.
But my office job is not, like, anti-enlightenment.
Yours is a little bit more, interacting with people.
It's very much about, like, hey, you know, you're going to do your thing for 8 hours and do your job. But then, yeah, if you want to go find Buddha or enlightenment, God, whatever, you know, go for it.
Okay.
Like they don't discourage that.
So,
they like the health of their employees.
Yeah. So going back to what I was talking about,
sorry.
Bentinho, early warning signs of him possibly doing bad things to a kitten, which really upset me and made me want to do the same damn thing to him. I will show him, but I'm going to play this clip real quick where he tells his version of that story, because I didn't find any clips of him giving the original, story. I think they are out there, but I didn't really feel like searching, like, Bentinho beats a kitten or whatever, because I didn't want to get other videos that would make me want to, like, find people abusing animals and murder every single one of them.
Right, or just find somebody who's, like, overly, like, you know, just,
no,
like,
I don't care about that.
Yeah.
I have no problem watching people screaming. It's just I really don't want to see animal abuse because of what I've searched.
True.
If it's people, I can stomach that, but I can't stomach, like, watching accidents or anything with animals. So... And, of course, this wouldn't be an accident. So I did find him giving his side, so let's hear this.
Okay.
I think the one thing that really... I mean, I know these things always get totally blown out of proportion and are strange and black and white, but the one thing that just seemed so strange was the idea of attacking a kitten. And is there any truth to that?
And they laugh. He bites his thumb, and they all laugh. Go fuck yourselves.
There is some truth to that, which I've explained before. But there's such a difference in how it's explained. You know, like slamming this kitten, torturing it, and I caused the kitten mild discomfort for about 5 minutes.
Caused him mild discomfort for 5 minutes?
5 minutes? Good Lord.
It was a prickly bush situation.
And they laugh again. Go fuck yourselves.
Not like thorns or anything. Just like a bush that, like, if you put your hand in it, it kind of tickles and it's uncomfortable. So the kitten, it wasn't hurt in any way in terms of, like, damage. Yeah, I wouldn't call it torture.
So it wasn't damage. It's not goods.
Could you imagine taking an animal like a cat by the scruff? Just say by the scruff.
Well, this was on a leash, too, so we don't know if it was around the neck. Hopefully not. Hopefully it was more of, like, an actual harness situation. Either way, he has said that he drug it back and forth through a bush, and in some of the things I read, it almost seemed like he had killed it, and I was very upset, but I guess he just mildly tortured it.
For 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
In
that's
a bush,
a long time.
I would say anything like 10 seconds, you're just like, oh, fuck, that's hurting the cat, yeah.
Well, and he claims that he just drug it back and forth while it was screaming. He even admits, like, he describes it as screaming out in pain. And I'm just like, are you fucking stupid? Most people, as soon as their animal expresses any sort of pain, they're like, oh gosh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, even if you know they're not actually hurt.
If you've ever accidentally stepped on your cat or dog's paw and it yelps and you're like, I'm so sorry, and I have no way to communicate that to you in language. I'm so sorry.
Well, even when your animal's not actually hurt, like one of my parents' dogs, when he goes to the vet, sometimes, like, the vet will touch him and he'll go, and it's like, oh, he touched you. He hasn't given you the shot yet.
Yeah.
And he just, like, preemptively, and you still feel bad. You're like, oh, honey, don't cry. And, like, he's not actually even being hurt, and you still want to, like, make it better. So I can't imagine somebody actually, you know, doing this. But that's kind of where we notice some strange personality things. The other thing is Bentinho was married when he came to the United States. And once he started gaining popularity, he gained popularity from the ladies. And once he realized this, he decided, I'm an enlightened being. I'm going to be polyamorous. Okay, hon. First off, you need consent to be polyamorous. Well, his wife didn't really seem to consent to that, so now she's no longer in the picture. So,
good for her.
But it's unfortunate that, you know, he's like, here's an example of a polyamorous lifestyle. No, that's an example of you just having lots of girls coming at you, you being like, Hugh Hefner wasn't polyamorous by any means, and this is kind of what he's playing. In fact, I believe there are some photos of him dressed as like a Hugh Hefner with some Playboy bunny girls that you can find in one of the articles. That might have been the Medium article. There's some interesting...
You're just like, oh, Hugh Hefner.
With like, he's got like a cigar in his mouth in one photo, and he's dressed as the Joker. Real interesting stuff, but we'll link to that so you can check it out. He's always talking about densities. And there are 7 densities. I went through them before. I'm not going to do it again.
The first density is Lorraine Baines McFly.
Okay. The first density is like super basic.
She's
some people are that density, but a lot of like plants and things are that density. And then you move up and up. And this is not a new concept. You can look it up, like spiritual densities. And you will see that generally Buddha and Christ are density 6, which is not the final density. The final density is density 7, which Bentinho claims that he is. And he's even quoted as saying Jesus messed up when he claimed to be the Son of God and not actually a God. And so he kind of subscribes to that we are our own gods kind of thing, which, again, not a new concept, not the only movement, spirituality, religion, etc., to have that kind of ideology.
Pretty unfalsifiable claim for science to make. You can say, like, I've attained a level that even Jesus did.
Yes, that nobody did.
They'd be like, here's some water.
But we can also talk about some fun stuff that he's also commented on.
Okay.
He says he can bilocate, which is like kind of like being in 2 places at once. He's claimed that he can move things with his mind. He can disperse clouds. One of his followers has quoted that he walked into a party somewhere and he was like, oh, these clouds just do nothing for the mood. And so he dispersed them with his mind, made all the dark, scary rain clouds disappear.
Like Jim Carrey and Bruce Almighty?
Yep. Yeah. And or like, Men Who Stare at Goats, like cloud bursting. So, I mean, I guess maybe that's why it was rainy today in Sedona, because he wasn't there to, like, swoosh the clouds away for us. So, Nicholas even tried his own hand, and it didn't seem to work.
No,
so
we got rained on.
We're not enlightened.
No.
But, he's made some crazy claims like this. Here's him talking to one of his followers about just different forms.
You can change anything about your body. In fact, you can change into a different being. You can change into a different body. You can change into a dog if you had to or wanted to, if it was actually relevant.
Or Kermit.
You can change into a dog if you have to or you want to or it's really relevant.
It's like, I don't want to get arrested.
Let me say that again.
I don't want to get arrested for public urination. There's a fire hydrant. There's no bathrooms in sight. I have to become a dog.
It's necessary and relevant. I better become a dog. So now he's saying that, he can do all these things. And, of course, he can't do any of them on video, right?
You can't say that on television.
Well, he can.
I'm talking about the TV show.
I got the quote.
But where you say, what? Or, I don't know, and then you get covered in slime. Is that how this ends? Does it have a happy Nickelodeon ending?
Sure. You turn into a dog and you get slime.
And he goes, woo, 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 and then green slime falls out of the sky and covers him.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's like the funny side of Bentinho is he's claiming to do things, and that's why we're talking about him, because it's kind of unusual for us to be talking about a cult, right?
Yes.
Well, we're talking about a cult because this individual claims that he has supernatural powers.
Of course he does.
Of course he does, and of course he can't put them on video for us. Interesting. He's claiming that, like, well, it'll just turn me into, like, a circus thing, and it'll take away from what I'm here for. Bro, what are you here for?
You would get so many billions in venture capital money, basically.
And he seems to like money. In fact, he makes, I don't know how much he makes,
if
but...
MoviePass can convince, like, startup investors to invest.
It's a good idea, yeah.
Like, hey, here's an idea. I'm going to use all your money, and I'm going to subsidize up to 30 movies a month. And they only have to pay for the price of one. And then we'll get more users, and eventually we'll be paying more than we're taking in.
Eventually. His headquarters in Sedona were very expensive. I don't remember how much, but like...
I don't think they had... It was the kind of place that didn't have a rate sheet. It was like,
no.
You need to tell us what you're going to do, and we'll tell you what we would charge for that.
I don't quite think that. I think it's just one of those places where if you have to ask, you can't afford it, and he seemed to be able to afford it just fine.
Really?
Yeah. It's very expensive. I think somewhere quoted like $60,000 a month, which sounds a bit much, but I'm not sure if that was just the building that we found or if he had others that, I mean, we didn't search too hard, did we?
No.
We were looking at all the pretty rocks.
It's very ad hoc and pretty.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that this cult has started to actually be known about, or this alleged cult, I should say, is some former staff members, because he does treat this like a business. He runs this like a business with networking, and he uses some of the same types of like tactics that Silicon Valley businesses will use, same kind of like buzzword usage and positive affirmations.
It was the Sedona Creative Life Center, right?
Yeah, the Sedona Creative Life Center.
Events going on from 9:30 to 6:30. The Tom Bird Method live retreat.
So that's what we were intruding on today.
Write your book in a weekend. Over the course of the long weekend, 95% of attendees finished the writing of their books for a wide array of reasons, including publication, creative expression, professional development.
Maybe it's just because they're stuck at a retreat and they have nothing better to do than write their books.
When done, I know. When done from the holistic divine author within space, the magic of writing provides a heart-centered connection that uncovers
that sounds really
life's mysteries
special.
And creates permanently life-changing transformation. You can write your book in longhand or on your laptop computer. You are not required to use a laptop. If you're a speedy typist, you can save the step of having to type your...
You don't have to read it all.
Anyway, cost was $600.
Yeah, that's for an attendee. I was talking about how much he was charged.
That's what I'm saying. Is like
to rent.
If you think he books out per person at $600.
Actually, the retreat he held, we do know how much he charged at that very place. It was about $2,000 a person.
Yeah.
So significantly more than that. So that has no relevance to how much it costs to go there, but it is fun to know what little retreat we intruded on.
Yes.
So
I don't feel so bad now.
I didn't feel bad in the first place.
Like, hey, you're having trouble finishing your book? And I'm like, yeah, I want to go.
Yeah, I'm seeing right here in my notes that I wrote down it cost him $60,000 a month for whatever building it was that he used in Sedona. So There you go. That's a bit much. And he was able to apparently pay that no problem. So, like I said, we tend to only know about cults when they go wrong. And
when they take a turn. For the worse.
And you can actually find this article on LinkedIn. I will link that article. And it's called A New Cult Leader on the Rise is Being Accused of Being the New Jim Jones. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Jim Jones. You may not recognize the name right away. Nicholas, can you give us a little info?
My name is Nicholas Jones. I am not related to Jim Jones.
So he says.
But Jonestown is...
Jonestown. You got to know that name.
Yeah. James Warren Jones, born May 13th, 1931. I'm reading the Wikipedia article. Was an American religious cult leader who initiated and was responsible for mass suicide and mass murder in Jonestown, Guyana. He considered Jesus Christ as being in compliance with an overarching belief in socialism as the correct social order. Jones was ordained as a Disciples of Christ pastor.
So he was the one that had Jonestown.
And he achieved notoriety as the founder and leader of the People's Temple cult. So basically this was a giant socialist kind of community movement.
And how did that end?
With a giant mass suicide.
It was called that, but they were kind of forced.
It was murder.
It was murder.
In many of the cases, I would say that, like in terms of
the majority
willing participants, there were a few. Obviously, there were true believers,
but it was mostly murder.
But it was coercion and murder he died of suicide by gunshot wound to the head, which may have been.
It was not self-inflicted from what we understand.
Right.
He couldn't even do it. He made somebody else. But what did he do to his followers?
Mass murder, suicide of 918 of his followers. The historical episode gave rise to the American English expression, drinking the Kool-Aid.
It was Flavor Aid!
Flavor Aid! They didn't that's.
Thanks, last podcast on the left.
Yes.
If you want to know more about cults,
actually, it wasn't Frankenstein. It was Frankenstein's monster.
Frankenstein. If you want to know more about cults, definitely check out last podcast on the left. They do have a Jonestown episode because we're not going to give you that much info.
Very harrowing,
very scary. But they have some other cults that they talk about as well. So that's one of the most well known.
But he came to national prominence in the 1960s. But he was still paranoid and definitely into drugs and worried about nuclear holocaust to the point where he uprooted his congregation and resettled in Guyana.
Yes, but and then, that's just basics about him, but we're not talking about Jim Jones right now.
Right. You said Nicholas. What do we know about Jim Jones?
Give us some basic facts. He's like, let me tell you the whole story now.
He's the guy who did a cult where he murdered people with Kool-Aid, Flavor-Aid.
Mm-hmm. So that's all you need to know about him for now.
And a congressman. He shot a congressman.
Okay. So the reason people are saying, oh, he's like Jim Jones is Jim Jones is very charismatic. He had a lot of followers.
And Jesus, did he love to talk.
Jesus, did he love to talk. And that's there's recordings. You can hear audio recordings of him. He liked to record himself. So you can kind of see where people are getting this little bit of like the other reason that people are worried about this cult is Bentinho talks about something that he calls
the harvest.
The harvest.
You talk about planting seeds, and you're like, okay, I like that idea. And then it's like, hey, the harvest is coming soon, and you're like, what? The what? Am I a cornstalk?
Yeah, and the scary thing is, it's the harvest. It's not like, harvest your seeds, because that's what you would ask me, like, oh, is it that? And it's like, no one knows what it is.
It's not a harvest. Like, a consequence of your actions will be following suit accordingly. It's the harvest.
It's the harvest, and no one's quite sure.
The harvest Osborne.
Some people have suspected that it might have something to do with he wants a 100% enlightened society by 2035.
And the only way to get there is to speed some shit up.
I guess.
Hyper-accelerate your life.
Yeah, he calls it hyper-acceleration. So he's saying that he's got this company he's calling Trinfinity. Trinity and Infinity. Trinfinity and Beyond.
Sorry, Disney. Sorry.
Trinfinity, and so he wants that to be, that's his company. Right now you can go and you can watch Trinfinity videos and take Trinfinity courses, and he wants to have like Trinfinity media, he wants to have Trinfinity apps. He basically wants you to live in kind of like, like a propaganda state where the only information that you can obtain is by Trinfinity. So it seems like he's really looking for like being king of the world kind of shit. And people are assuming maybe that's what he means. Is that the harvest? Is he harvesting souls? Like, what is that? The other thing that was concerning is he doesn't seem to hold himself to the same standards as his followers, which is typical cult-like behavior, where during these retreats, he's often making people fast. And this is from food and water, but they're allowed to drink grape juice. Yeah. So he's got people that are going, sometimes some have claimed up to 10 days. They are going with doing nothing but drinking grape juice.
Which you will die of dehydration without 3 days of water.
Some people...
But if you're drinking grape
juice has water in it, but it's not...
But the nutritional value is just water and sugar, basically.
Well, it's not enough to really sustain you.
Right.
So people are getting sick. There's some people that really go for this. So they at home and on their own, they do this a lot where they try to fast and just drink this grape juice. They're having chronic health problems, hair falling out, etc.
No shit. Every time you walk down the juice aisle, like how many times do you see that on the label it says like made from less than 5% juice? And so you're basically drinking like dye, water, and corn syrup.
Yeah, you're like, what else is in this shit?
And flavoring. So you're like...
Flavoring?
Flavoring.
Joke. This is the funny part, right?
Oh, yeah.
Lol.
No, we're talking about the consequences now.
Is there a little bit of the consequences? So he's making people drink just grape juice, and obviously that's not great, but meanwhile he can eat, he can have, because he's already enlightened, and, he's already got all these girls that are his different girlfriends he has, and you and I were speculating, like, how much consent is there if some of these are true believers that believe that he is the way to salvation, and it's almost like taking a little bit of the ability to consent away in a manner, because if they believe that he is the most enlightened, of course they're going to want to get close to him. Mm-hmm. So it's like if he was just a guy, would, just a guy, if he was just a normal guy, would they still have the same, would they still consent? Maybe. He's kind of cute, I guess. He has an appeal, so potentially he's got a nice fancy car.
I said he reminded me of Anthony Jeselnik a little bit.
Guess he's a stand-up comedian. Little boy.
Yeah. He's a very boyish-looking 30s comedian.
But he's got a nice car and all that shit, so who knows? But it still seems a little scummy because I was saying that, there's a lot of cults where the cult leaders just start deciding who can have sex, who can't have sex, who can have sex with whom, and it's like, ooh, is it going to get to that point? Because he's already, gathering the ladies to him. Is he then going to decide that nobody else can sleep with anybody else? Who knows? We're speculating. But where we were giving a little bit of the warning is an individual named Brent. I'm just going to use his first name because I think it's kind of disrespectful to continue to be like, everybody Google this. Like, I don't know. But Brent was a follower of Bentinho Massaro. He was also someone who had anxiety and different issues that his family and friends had noticed. He was said to really, zero in on things. He would zero in on things and he would get obsessed. So his latest thing was Bentinho Massaro.
He's like me in that he probably needed a new piece of mental chewing gum every once in a while. Like, oh, the flavor's out of this one, throw it out. Find something new, grab onto it.
Basically, and in some ways this was kind of dangerous the way he would kind of jump from thing to thing, but he was the kind of person that they thought, he'll be into Bentinho Massaro and then he'll be over it. Well, he sold everything or almost everything he had, took his vehicle, it was like a Jeep or something similar, and drove, I think it was from Colorado he was living at the time. He drove from there to Sedona, Arizona.
It's like a 15-hour drive.
Mm-hmm.
From Denver.
From Denver, yeah. He drove there December of last year, 2017. And he drove there in order to go to this retreat. Well, we're not quite sure what happened, but we know that his friends and his family had stopped being able to contact him. Shortly after that, some hikers found his body. So unfortunately, he had passed away, and he had passed away from suicide. And when the police came, they kind of went to question Bentinho, and the reason they were kind of like, oh, this isn't great, is Bentinho has been quoted to say things such as, "You can't die unless you want to. Looking forward to death makes you truly come alive."
Or the quote that we opened the show with.
"Wake up to something important, otherwise kill yourself."
Yes.
So he is actually telling his followers, kill yourself. Police questioned him, Sedona police, and they were like, this is why we wanted to come to talk to you about your words. We wanted to make sure that your words did not encourage him to kill himself.
Otherwise, it could be, I don't know, legal liability for stochastic.
Well, what do you think about that?
Rhetoric.
So knowing that that's some of the things that he said, how do you feel about that? Do you think that there's any culpability there?
I do. And I think that at the higher levels of group and population influence, our major leaders and our major, national and international figures are aware that their words have consequences.
They should be anyways.
There's a phrase that was very, I learned it after the Gabby Gifford shooting in Tucson. It's called stochastic terrorism. Now, there was elements of, after Gabby Giffords was shot at a Meet Your Constituents event in a Safeway parking lot in Tucson, a lot of people were angered with Sarah Palin because Sarah Palin had put up a map of the U.S. with here's districts, vulnerable districts to target, and she put crosshairs over the incumbent Democrats. And so basically, we're not saying, nobody's saying Sarah Palin said, I need you to shoot Gabby Giffords. But obviously, Jared Loughner is not in a healthy state of mind. We don't know what he saw. But the thing is, if you're a national prominent figure, you have a responsibility to not point fingers or basically encourage what could be violence because you don't know the mental state of who's hearing your words.
Exactly.
Right?
We don't know if he even knew Brent at all, but we do know that if you're actually physically saying the words, kill yourself, I think, I know both of us, and I think a lot of listeners probably have lost somebody or know someone who's lost somebody to suicide.
More than one, yeah.
And the fact that somebody would suggest to kill yourself, even to a healthy person, it's like, go fuck yourself. How dare you ever even tell somebody that, let alone vulnerable people that you're preying on that could potentially be in a state of mind. That
you don't know how much that action gutted the people that were closest.
We do know that Brent did have some prior known issues. We do know that this may have been an outcome eventually, no matter what his friends or family did, no matter what he did or didn't listen to. But just the idea that you maybe could have contributed to it is something that should have shocked Bentinho. And it is reported that, he was shocked when he heard this. No, he was scared he was going to get in trouble because shortly after that, what happened? He fled.
No, he bought a house and he put down roots in Sedona, right?
Right. No, he fled. He said he felt unsafe. He was scared for his girlfriends. I think people were threatening him, so he went back. As far as I can tell, he is back in Europe. It looked like he had some retreats planned for this year, like in Germany and various countries and areas in Europe, and I don't know if those are just old press that hasn't been removed. I doubt it. It looked like those were new things. So even though he said, I'm just going to focus on Trinfinity Online for a while, it seems like he's back to doing these retreats. And I don't know if he's changed the way he speaks to people.
Are they e-retreats still? Like you can...
in person.
Simulcast? Oh, okay.
In person. The reason the police knew where Brent was from is he had his wallet with just $13 cash, and he had his name tag, and his name tag said the name of the retreat. Additionally, in his car, which was nearby, they found a note. And this note said, "This did not happen because of my friends or my family. I just don't feel safe and made some mistakes." He didn't feel safe. At this retreat where he was being forced to just drink grape juice and being screamed at about how he could fuck his relationships. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised he didn't feel safe, because we don't know how much of the media that we're seeing is like the full truth, the full media. We don't know what Bentinho doesn't.
It could be completely anodyne, but everything we could see could be the totality of his experience that is.
But why would he post his whole retreat if he wanted to come pay for it?
Or we could see basically what they want and what he wanted us to see.
And we don't know if he'd had any conversations with Brent, because the police did say, do you think that your words could lead somebody like Brent to kill himself? And he said, no. They said, well, he did. He did that. And he was like, what? His quote was, "Are you messing?" No.
You messing, bro?
And he has been called the tech bro guru. And I guess he's a little bro-ish, but he looks more to me just like a frat, not frat boy, but just like a pretentious little twat, I guess, like a little.
He's a little bro.
Spoiled brat.
I think he's but I think the spoiled brat is the more thing about it, because like you said, his narcissism comes from what we think. We're going to put him on the couch. I'm going to make speculations. His mother coddled him as a little boy. You're the most special person. You're going to save humanity. You're the best thing to ever be since pancakes, hotcakes, and sliced bread.
Spiced bread sounds better.
Spiced bread sounds awesome. Like some bread with some cinnamon butter right now.
Nick has the munchies.
Maybe. But mother coddled him. You can do
She's
no
one of
wrong.
His followers now.
And his father wrote self-help, and so it's these two basically created a tempest in a teapot. And then it's his mother he never had a regular mother-son relationship.
But what's really
she
fucked
became
up,
one of his followers.
Putting my thumb back in place, sorry.
Bless you. Or fix
no, I was I'm sorry.
Fix yourself.
My thumb came out of place. What's really fucked up is after this, instead of changing his rhetoric, he posts often Facebook statuses that some people say seem like a goodbye. Like if your friend posted this kind of Facebook status, you would be calling, making phone calls, making sure they were okay.
Yes.
Things such as, "I don't think you realize how quickly you'll be gone. I'm inside your heart. I hope you know." He will post basically goodbyes, but then no, nothing. Nope. These are the kinds of things, and it's either cries for help from Bentinho, which is sad and hopefully not, or it's him being manipulative, which is quite depressing. But, you know, this is how he is, and he still won't disclose really where he is. I mean, I guess you can find him at these retreats, but we don't know where he's gone.
I'm in Europe somewhere. I have a Eurail pass.
Oh, I see.
Could be. He's just hopping from like Vienna to Budapest to Amsterdam to Paris to.
I don't know.
Or he's just hidden out in the Anne Frank house.
Something tells me no. I'm gonna go no.
No.
I'm gonna guess no. I'm looking right now to see if there's any retreats that we can see. Events, 7-day all-inclusive retreat is what I'm seeing. So it looks like I am seeing some events that are up right now. Oh, you have to. Yeah, retreats, talks, live streams. It looks like you have to subscribe in order to see what these are. He calls them civilization upgrades.
Your money's better spent on a porn site.
Let's see here. September. Those are here. February 2018. Bentinho Massaro's
6 months ago.
Retreats in Hawaii. So yeah, I feel like that one got canceled.
Look out, Obama. He's coming for you.
He's coming for you. I don't think so.
Let me be clear. I will not be persuaded by your nonsense.
Who was that supposed to be? Captain Kirk?
That was my Obama.
Oh, all right. Sound more like Captain Kirk.
Okay.
But it's really interesting because he still has, like, by an Eye of the Vortex Sedona retreat that took place in October 2017 up, and it's like, well, let's see what happens when I click on buy. Is he still gonna? Yeah, he's still gonna take my money. Look at that. You can actually straight up still send him $277.
For a retreat that happened 10 months ago.
Oh, I see. Now it's video streaming.
Oh, you know what? It's the record of it,
It's
right?
the record of it.
Like when
I was going to say $277. He charges $2,000. So
there have been comedy
person.
There have been comedy festivals I've been to where after the fact you can buy a subscription and
stream it
and watch the shows that you didn't go to.
That's not fun.
Yeah,
you gotta go.
Well, no, you can go to them, but you got to pick and choose. Sometimes it's like, oh, I want to go to this one, but this one's playing at the same time.
I went to one with you.
Yeah, it was fun.
I was like, hey, hi. I was there.
I'm not explaining it to you. I'm explaining it to the listeners.
I think they get how it works.
Okay.
Do you get how it works?
Yeah,
Let's do a poll.
They're like,
we're kidding.
Yes, drunk asshole. We got it.
Yes, drunk. Oh, yeah, it's drunk. Oh, don't give me that look.
Oh.
So we've talked about all sorts of shenanigans. What are your final thoughts on this guy?
The quicker he disappears up his own ass, the better.
Do you think he's going to disappear up his own ass or in like a fiery explosion like Waco?
I think it would make more news if he disappeared up his own ass.
I mean, finally, we'd be like, he wasn't kidding. He can do some magic.
He's
right
a
up his own ass.
He's a Mobius man. And then he just he watch his body spasm.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because he did claim that he had twitches. If you read like quotes where he's talking about beating up this kitten, he says, let's see.
For 4 minutes.
He said 5. You're downgrading.
4 minutes is too much.
Oh, of course, obviously.
I mean, when I was a kid, me and my buddy, we were camping with my dad. We were little kids, about 8, and we hit a bunch of toads in a field with a stick. But then it was just like, yeah, let's not do that. Let's go fishing.
Well, he says, the kitten didn't care about the twitches and the outbursts.
How does he know that? Did he empath with the kitten?
I don't care about that part. You're missing. The kitten didn't care about the twitches and the outbursts.
Oh, his twitches.
Yes.
His outbursts.
Now you're saying.
He's a psycho.
I mean, we can't say that, obviously, because there's people that can have genuine medical conditions, such as that can be indicative of...
You're right. He's a narcissist who
of course.
grew up to be a cult leader. And
absolutely.
We'll
agree on that. But that can be indicative of somebody with something such as...
With a propensity for twitches and outbursts. Like he's bursting at the seams.
Well, what does that sound like? Outbursts?
It sounds like loss of control.
What do you think of when you think of people who have outbursts?
I think of adult temper tantrums. I think of rage incidents.
You don't think of anything that's like...
I think of mass shootings. Yes.
Tourette's is...
Rewind.
Something that...
Yeah, okay, so it's like Tourette's, and he has an outburst.
So, for me, that was kind of like, Twitch is an outburst. That could be something such as, Tourette's, which would be, an actual...
Could explain his inner
medical
experiences
condition.
and...
Well, it could explain, growing up with something difficult, but it could also just be, so was he just like a brat when he didn't get his way, he would throw fits? We don't know. But it does lead, when he's mentioning twitches, he's mentioning feeling he can't control himself beating up this cat. It seems like there is definitely something going on that needs to be addressed.
If you're being raised as a tiny god, like you're going to be a god someday, you're going to be like there's nothing further away from godliness than brattiness.
100%. Well, and like I said again, going back to that, he claims that he was crying and he was sad about it the whole time. Get help. You clearly don't need to be telling everybody else how to live.
Fix your shit.
Fix your shit first. But that's what's concerning is somebody that they themselves needs to go to therapy are telling other people how to go about things that may not necessarily be the right way. It's
how
just
often
like
in human history does that happen?
Not great. It's definitely not great.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that I don't think he's going to fizzle out. I know you think that he's just going to become irrelevant and fizzle out.
No, I literally think he's going to try to put his head up his own ass and then disappear.
Okay, you literally think he's going to try to put his head up his ass and disappear.
I'm the curmudgeon. I doubt everything, but this is my...
But this is your one thing you think he has the power to go up his own ass?
He's going to Ouroboros himself up his own intestines.
Oh my goodness.
He's going to have a rectal cranial occlusion.
All right. You were so proud of yourself with that one. You're turning red. You're laughing so hard. All right, we'll give it to you. Clap, clap, clap. Golf clap. I think it's going to end badly. The reason I think that is we've already seen at least one known casualty. There are others. I've heard that if you look through the Reddit comments of obviously unsubstantiated, but people are claiming that people close to them that they knew have also passed and that they have died by suicide due to listening to Bentinho Massaro. We don't know, but it's dangerous rhetoric. It's yucky. In general, it's not great. And I feel that if he gets into another situation where he's having a retreat or he's having lots of close individuals all in one area, if he ever starts any sort of like compound or even a company, if he calls it a company, I think that whenever we've got...
Thrinity, or what is it?
Trifinity.
Thrifinity Holdings.
Trifinity. I think if ever he has a big building where he has amassed lots of people, I think that is where we have a concern of like something happening, something going down and ending badly.
Like, basically, if you take a large group of people, statistically, somebody's going to be vulnerable, somebody's going to be there.
Well, but I mean, in this situation, I think... he
has the possibility to do a lot of damage.
The
larger his following.
When it's all online, it's hard to think of like, oh, this isn't going to end badly. Everybody's spread all over. They're watching videos, but at retreats, at things like that, where he's got a mass of people together.
And he's also like, no food, and everybody's like, okay, no water.
Yeah, and everybody's getting a little,
okay.
Everyone's getting a little messed up, and we don't know what the harvest is. I could see this ending very, very badly, Waco style.
Yeah.
Or even Jonestown style. Yeah. So hopefully not, but...
we don't want that. He's in Europe. We want him to stay there.
Well, I don't want anything to happen there either, but what do you guys think? Do you know any information about this? Do you think this is a cult? Do you think it's all been blown out of proportion? We'd love to hear your feedback on this, or if you know anybody or you yourself are a follower or have found any solace or comfort or enlightenment from anything, any of his teachings, let us know.
We're opening to like change our view or hear the other side with compassion and respect. Like
as much as we can muster.
Yes.
Can he bark like a dog? Does he turn into a dog? Does he just like bark and like make you all tell him he's a dog?
If he turned into a dog, would it maintain the same density?
Does he have density level 7 or does he go down?
No. I'm talking about the literal definition of density, because basically if he turns into a little Scotty and he's like a 160-pound man and he turns into like the size of a small dog, well then his density's huge, right? Because he's the same. Oh, Nicholas's reminder is happening. You know what
you set the reminder to go to Sedona for tonight instead of last night.
I said 9.
9 p.m. instead of 9 a.m.
But what time was I at your house?
Before I was ready.
10.
I don't know.
10 to 9.
Yes. All right. Well, let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Is he a cult leader? What kind of, qualities do you think are needed for him to be a cult leader if you don't think he's a cult leader? You can also just tell us about your favorite cult.
Yes. Also, if you have experience with a I would say, what you would label a cult or a small religious
sect.
Yes,
if you're somebody who's been part of a cult, we'd love to hear about it. Let us know. And in the meantime, keep the campfire burning. Bye.
Hey, campers, thanks for listening. Got any scary stories? Send them to campfirecurmudgeon@gmail.com or message us on Facebook. You can even send a text or leave a voicemail at 480-442-0124. Don't forget to visit us on Instagram and tweet us at CFCurmudge.